Folks, today we have some pretty juicy evidence that we will actually be getting GameCube Nintendo Switch Online games on the Switch 2. We have a new FCC filing that strongly suggests that a GameCube NSO controller will be made available at some point. So today we're talking about that, why GameCube NSO may actually be exclusive to Switch 2 and not available on Switch 1, and what GameCube games actually make sense for them to add to a service like this. I have been very outspoken in the past, being like, yeah, they're just gonna sell these again. We've seen so many GameCube remasters on the Nintendo Switch. Why would they offer them as a subscription when they can just remaster them and sell them? But honestly, when you really look at the GameCube library, I got a big ol' stack of games here we're gonna go over. There's a lot of games that don't really make that much sense to sell again. A lot of games that I don't think would justify a $60 or even $50, maybe even $40 price tag. So when you look at it from that perspective, when you look at, frankly, how few GBA and N64 games are on there, I think there is a lot of room for a GameCube NSO offering where maybe they only have 5 games at release, but I mean, these are beefier games. It's fine if it's pretty sparse, and then over the years in the Switch 2 generation, they add them, you know, once a month, once every even 3 months. I know that is a very slow drip feeding of the GameCube games, but given how they've done things in the past, I wouldn't be that surprised. Okay, so going over the actual information that we have here, about 8 months ago, and I made a video on this back when it happens, users Luigi Blood and LIC over on Family Boards, I'll have this Reddit post as well as their individual posts linked in the description, so you can check it out for yourself. They had found that there were customs shipping data suggesting that there would be a GameCube controller, but it was just based on like parts and like product code numbers and that kind of thing. But it was still strong evidence in support of there being a GameCube controller being manufactured for the Nintendo Switch, because it followed the same kind of code structure of the other NSO controllers, the NES, the SNES, the Genesis. It had the same prefix, I believe. But now we have another new discovery, this time once again from LIC. Pokemaniac over on Family Boards made a separate post, but once again, I'll have this link down below. So they found an FCC filing for what seems to be a GameCube Switch controller, because basically they try to like hide it, obscure it, so you don't actually know like, okay, this is what this is. And you can check this on the actual like filing website itself here as well. But basically they had this image, and it shows in their little diagram here where the like product information will be, where the product code would be on whatever this device is, and it has a very particular shape, and the label is in a very particular spot, and LIC noticed that it lines up almost perfectly with the GameCube controller, where in their image here the label is in like the bottom left-ish of this this shape here, and then the GameCube controller fits perfectly in that, and the label is also right there. Now, what I find particularly interesting about this FCC filing here is that it is using the BEE or B prefix, which is not what the Switch uses. Switch uses HAC, and we know that the Switch 2 is using B as its kind of product code prefix, suggesting that this Switch Online controller is for Switch 2 specifically, not for Switch 1, but for Switch 2. And this user even notes here that this doesn't necessarily mean that the controller will be fully incompatible with Switch 1, as the two consoles will share an OS. Switch 1 very well might register it as a GameCube controller for the games which already support that via the USB adapter, the Smash Bros. USB GameCube adapter. But yeah, we have a GameCube controller that is seemingly being made for the Nintendo Switch 2, which, you know, when talking about GameCube NSO, I was kind of just assuming, like, yeah, it's going to come out after Switch 2. It's going to be a big boost for Switch 2. They're going to want to have more incentives for their Switch Online service when the Switch 2 comes out. But considering how big the Switch is, and considering that we will likely still see it supported at least for a couple more years in some degrees, GameCube NSO is kind of a lightweight thing. I'm surprised to see that it might actually be a Switch 2 exclusive feature, but if Nintendo wants you to upgrade it to the Switch 2, maybe they see this as an easy Switch 2 exclusive feature, not unlike when they added SNES Virtual Console to the new 3DS. Even though GameCube Switch Online would almost certainly work on the Switch 1, maybe they're just like, well, we've gone this long with the Switch 1. NSO already has a ton of games on there. I think most NSO subscribers are pretty happy with what is offered there at this point. Do they really need GameCube on Switch 1? I'm just like trying to think how Nintendo is viewing this. So having GameCube NSO as a major Switch 2, Switch Online incentive is a really good idea, honestly. You know, talking strictly from like the business side, because they are going to want to keep adding more incentives and more features to Switch Online, specifically the expansion pack, to get people to keep upgrading. Subscriptions are all the rage. It's an easy, steady flow of income. And for a lot of people, maybe NES, SNES, GBA, even N64, like maybe that wasn't enough. But GameCube games are on another level of quality, I would say, for a lot of people. There's a lot of nostalgia for GameCube. GameCube games are very expensive to buy if you want to actually own them physically on the original hardware and play them that way. GameCube is something that has been requested for so long. Even back on the Wii U, people were talking about GameCube Virtual Console. I think it is finally time for them to implement this, especially when you look at the current libraries on NSO for the Switch 1. There's really not that much left for them to add, at least in terms of first party. Yes, for every console, there's a couple obvious things. I don't think Smash Bros. N64 is on there. There's a few Mario sports games and like Mario Pinball Land on GBA, as well as a couple other things. But far and wide, they've really kind of done what they can with those consoles on Switch Online. So GameCube is a natural next step. But like I said earlier, for a while there, I was kind of hesitant to believe we would get GameCube NSO because they have been remastering so many of them, and they've been selling a lot of these for full price. Thousand Year Door was a full price game. Sunshine was included in 3D All-Stars. Metroid Prime Remastered was a full retail release. It was a budget release at $40, but still, they've been selling these things at full retail price or close to it. Pikmin 1 and 2 HD, another one. Baten Kaitos, Nintendo didn't publish, but they do own the IP for, so they were involved there in some way. They've been just selling them on their own, and for a long time, I was like, yeah, they'll just do that for everything. But honestly, as I've gone back and been playing more GameCube games that I missed as a kid, I'm realizing a lot of these games I don't think really, even if they're really fun and I love a lot of these, I don't know if they necessarily deserve full $40, $50, $60 remasters or remakes. Something like Kirby Air Ride, it's like, I mean, it'd be cool if they gave that a full remake and added online to it, but it might make more sense to just throw it up on Switch Online and make it a subscription service benefit. There is also that little fear in me, like, well, what if they just raise the price again? What if they add another tier? I feel like in terms of subscription services, the more tiers you have, the more confusing it gets. Maybe that works for some. I know Disney Plus has like a ton of different bundles and options you can do where you combine other services. I think Game Pass has like Game Pass Core now. PS Plus has 3 different tiers. So maybe they'd be fine doing an even higher tier than the expansion pack. I do think if anything's going to make it worth it, it would be GameCube. I don't really know what else they could add outside of like DS or Wii. But honestly, even talking DS, I feel like GameCube is more valuable to the average person who wants to play video games than DS games. So if they were ever going to hike the price or add a third tier, I think it would be now. I don't want that to happen, obviously. I want to keep paying the same amounts and still get more, but I would say maybe brace yourself a little bit for some sort of Switch Online price increase when they do add GameCube Online. And also real quick, before we start talking actual GameCube games I want to see on this service, could it be just for Smash? We're gonna get a new Smash Bros. Game on Switch 2. Sakurai has already talked about how he's working on his next project. We don't know if it is Smash, but I mean, let's be real, it's Smash Bros. Could they just do a GameCube controller for Switch 2 that you have to be subscribed to Switch Online to get, but it's not actually tied to a service? I mean, maybe. We haven't really seen that before from them, but also we are getting new product launches, like Alarmo was exclusive to NSO initially. So maybe this could just be for Smash. They know how much people love the GameCube controller. I just don't see it, though. Like, this will work on Smash, don't get me wrong, and hopefully they add an extra Z button on the other side, spruce it up a little bit. This would definitely be wireless. You know, we finally have the Wavebird back without the little battery pack on it, but I don't think it's just for Smash. I think this will be a NSO controller that is specifically launched alongside a library of classic games. And let's start talking about those classic games, GameCube games that I don't think really need full remasters or remakes, especially when we're talking about NSO, where online multiplayer is kind of an inherent benefit, you know, where they're emulating local split screen. We have programs like Parsec, I believe it's called, on Windows. You can do online split screen in GameCube games emulated, but having it actually on Switch 2, being able to easily play with friends would just be a huge draw to the service. And for a lot of these games, in my opinion, makes it so that a remake isn't necessarily as necessary. So for something like Kirby Air Ride, I played this game for the first time last year, really enjoy it. Not a huge fan of City Trial, I know that's what everybody loves. I just actually like the racing mode in this game. You're going to have online inherently. That's probably enough This game's kind of bare bones. I don't know if they could get away selling it for 50 or 60 bucks, but as an NSO drop, I mean, this would be a huge deal if it was just added as part of a subscription. F-Zero GX is another one that I would love to see remastered or remade, but once again, could it just be a Switch Online game? I think that would be okay. I want to see a new F-Zero game after 99, which I love so much, and, you know, GX is a fantastic game, but put this one on NSO. We already have every other F-Zero game on there, on SNES, N64, and GBA. Put this on NSO, and then give us a new F-Zero a couple of years into the Switch 2 life cycle. That's what I would, I think, prefer to see, and once again, you would have online play regardless for this one. Custom Robo and Eternal Darkness are both games I'm not that familiar with. I haven't had the chance to play them yet. I picked these both up late last year. I'm going to play them at some point. Nintendo's been remastering and remaking a lot of random stuff like Another Code. We got a new Endless Ocean, new Famicom Detective Club. I wouldn't be that surprised if one day they're like, yeah, Eternal Darkness is remade out of nowhere. But barring that, once again, these are just great NSO drops that, you know, most Nintendo fans haven't played these games, but it would still be like an exciting, like, oh, wow, we finally have this playable on modern hardware kind of moment there. Maybe they wouldn't do Donkey Kong Jungle Beat because the bongos are kind of like the main gimmick there. You can play it with a regular controller. That's a game I also have not played. I would love to play that for the first time. Maybe it gets a full remake, but I don't know. Once again, I just feel like that kind of makes sense for a subscription. This is an obvious one here. Chicken Little. Need to see this on there. A lot of Mario games that kind of just get sequels that outdate them, but still would be cool to have, and we've seen them do that with these sports games, with Mario Party before. So starting off here, this one is a bigger deal, but Mario Kart Double Dash, can you imagine if they added this? I mean, they've added all the other older Mario Kart games to Switch Online. This is certainly the biggest deal of any Mario Kart for them to add. This is a fan favorite game in the series. They could sell it for 60. Honestly, they could sell this for 70 if they wanted it to, and people would still buy it. But if we're going to have Mario Kart 9 at launch, what if we also had Mario Kart Double Dash like a year or two later into NSO for GameCube on Switch 2? This would be a huge draw to the service. I mentioned these sports games, but strikers, golf, baseball, tennis, like these aren't really, I don't think these make sense to remake, but as a Switch Online benefit, these would be awesome to have on Switch 2. Mario Party as well. I only have a copy of Mario Party 4 here, but hell, add all 4 of them. That would be really cool. I guess there is the issue of the microphone, but we're hearing that the Switch 2 will have a microphone on the Joy-Con, and I think also on the Pro Controller. So they could do the microphone mini games in 6 and 7 if that also just translates and works flawlessly. Mario Sunshine is part of 3D All-Stars, but that didn't stop Mario 64 from being added to Switch Online, so maybe we could see Sunshine added as well. This is one I'm not sure about. Luigi's Mansion is a very short game, but it is a fan-favorite GameCube game. This is actually my favorite game of all time. So selfishly, I want a remake. They already remade it on 3DS. It's like a 3 or 4 hour game. I don't know if they would bother giving it a full remake. I would love if they did, as well, as long as they are like true to it. They have all like the nice dust particles and stuff. Give it a full-blown 4K remake. I would be all over that. But realistically, because it is so short, they would just put this on Switch Online, I think. Both Star Fox games on GameCube, I could maybe see them doing like a 2-pack, like Star Fox Assault and Star Fox Adventures in one 2-pack like they did with Pikmin 1 and 2 HD. But the issue with that is they're very different games. I played Assault for the first time earlier this year, and it has a lot of issues, but it's honestly pretty fun. Like, especially the on-rail sections, I really enjoy that game. And Star Fox Adventures is a very different Zelda-like Star Fox game. I don't know if it makes sense to sell those together, and especially in the case of Assault, it's a very short game. So at least Assault, maybe Assault is added as an NSO game, but then Adventures gets like a remaster or remake on its own or something like that. WarioWare for the GameCube. This is one that I can't see them remaking. So yeah, put this one on the service. Another big one, knowing Nintendo, they're not even going to treat it like a big deal. Like one morning it'll just be there. Although, like I mentioned earlier, Smash 64, I don't think Smash 64 is on Switch Online. I could be wrong on that. I'll eat crow if I am. Let me know. But just imagine the excitement if they added Smash Bros. Melee to Switch Online with online split-screen co-op. But online multiplayer, not co-op. It's not co-op, it's versus. But online, can you imagine? As just part of a subscription. That would be like the ultimate, like, hey, subscribe. Come join the dark side and subscribe to our subscription service. So yeah, Melee would be a huge draw to the service. A couple random more here, and I don't have every first-party GameCube game, so Chibi Robo would be really cool. That's one I don't have. I would like to play that a lot, but like Wave Race and 1080, these would be cool to add. These aren't going to get remixed, I don't think. This is a pretty big one that I would like to see once again, maybe one that gets a full remake as like its own standalone release for $60. I kind of surprised they didn't do it on Switch, to be honest. But Four Swords Adventures is a very beat up copy. This would be really cool to have online in. But even beyond first party, there's a lot of really cool stuff on the GameCube from a third party. One I would really like to see is Soul Calibur 2, especially because Link was in it. Imagine we finally get a re-release of this game with Link. That would be awesome. Or how about all of the classic Resident Evil games? It doesn't feel like Capcom really wants to re-release these. I think they did the director's cut of the first game on PSN, on PS5, but the original versions of RE1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica have not been re-released. Maybe we get that eventually. Maybe Capcom does a collection. But if they're not going to do that, give me Resident Evil 2, 3, Code Veronica on Switch Online. Hell, honestly, even give me 0 Remake 1. I know they're sold separately on the eShop. Give me Resident Evil 4. Give me another way to play Resident Evil 4. I will eat that up. And then this is kind of a random one. We haven't really seen EA support Nintendo Switch Online before. I do think EA is going to show up for the Switch 2. They've talked openly about how they should have supported the Switch. So if we start seeing EA stuff on Switch Online, I would love to see the SSX games, specifically SSX 3 and SSX Tricky. I love these games. These are classic snowboarding games I played a ton of as a kid. Also been playing a lot of Tony Hawk recently, so if we don't get like an Underground 1 and 2 remake, put those on Switch Online Activision. That would be really, really cool. So yeah, I really hope that this is all true. We are getting GameCube NSO, we get a controller alongside it, and we have a constant drip feed of GameCube games throughout the Switch 2 life cycle. I know people don't like when they do one game every 6 weeks, every 2 months, but with GameCube games, I mean, these are bigger games. Even if a lot of GameCube games feel a little unpolished, or they're shorter like Luigi's Mansion or Kirby Air Ride, they're still more significant and more meaty than anything that has been added to Switch Online so far. So for me, if they do one every month or every other month, that'd be enough for me. And even just here, the stack of games I have, I mean, this would get them through like 2 years, and that's barely even talking about much third-party stuff. There's a ton of third-party stuff on the GameCube that I never really messed around with. So GameCube NSO, I really hope it happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think this is actually real and we will get GameCube NSO? Do you think they will raise the price when they do add GameCube to Switch Online? Do you think it'll be Switch 2 exclusive? And finally, what games do you want to see? I covered a lot in this video, but what games did I not talk about that you want to see on GameCube NSO? Fire Emblem is one that I actually could see them remaking, but that's one I forgot to mention. I would love to see Path of Radiance on there as well. But let me know your thoughts. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 speculation, theories, discussion. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Check out my other channel at It's Amiibo, and let the YouTube algorithm decide some videos for you to watch here. Until next time, folks, peace.